Yeah, we don't get those kind of retweets around here, do we? From those kind of big people.
No, I don't think we've ever had someone who's got 11,000 followers retweet us.
We've hit it big, gentlemen. We've hit it
Yeah.
big.
More followers than all of us
I
combined.
might have to go on I might have to load up the Twitch channel just in case you've got people asking questions.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
All right, gentlemen, we are live with fancy new dreads. So I guess I forgot I'm doing the host. I'm used to McWomble coming in and just being like, fix the show, like, save it from the SOS we're in. But anyways, so welcome. We are Pixel Pints. We are the only global gaming podcast that not only covers great games, but we also cover great beer. We don't promote drinking. Please drink responsibly. But I am joined by three wonderful co-hosts today. I have one who's in the fridge, so I'll come back to him later.
Sorry.
I'll go to Mr. Liam. How you been?
I'm doing good. Too early to drink here, so I will watch Evan drink, I think, unless he's not drinking.
Oh, I'm drinking.
Okay, yeah, but there we go.
We,
Who have they replaced you with?
Yeah, seriously. It's 5:35 p.m. on a Saturday after 5 hours of work.
Oh yeah, that's prime drinking.
Well,
Yeah, that's prime drinking.
Yeah, it is 5 o'clock somewhere. I suppose that means I can drink, Evan, because it's 5 o'clock where you are.
Yeah. This isn't some like I was gonna say Davy Crockett, Jimmy Buffett. It has a same amount of syllables.
Jimmy Buffett.
This is some Jimmy Buffett cheesy ass Las Vegas strip restaurant that has the sign, the cheesy ass like beach sign. It's always noon somewhere. No, we're actually connected somewhat, at least on Zoom.
By this podcast.
To me, that's more of an excuse than a sign like nailed on like the bathroom door of Jimmy Buffett restaurant in Las Vegas. So yeah.
but I think the thing you're
what I'm
looking
trying to
for,
say is
Evan,
you can
is it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, did I say noon?
I don't know.
You did say noon. I said 5 o'clock somewhere. You said noon. I was
Sorry.
like, oh, noon works too, but
Wow,
that's not really the same.
that makes me look bad. Where like my motto is it's always noon somewhere instead of 5 p.m. I apologize.
Oh, whoopsies. I will fix that later. Sorry about that technical difficulty that just popped up. Whoops. Go back to the main. Okay. Well, I'll figure it out in a minute. I'm playing with technical stuff, guys. Sorry about the background change. That wasn't supposed to happen because we're not on beers yet. We're still talking about people.
Yes.
Dan, how are you?
Yeah, good. Good. Another week logged in. 1 week to go until my holiday. I'm happy.
That's some teacher shit. That's some teacher shit right there. 1 week. We count our work by the little vacations we get.
So Liam, so you see the room? Oh, you can't really see the room I'm in because I've got a background. But I'm in a room now, and where I'm going is I'm going to stand up of this chair and walk into my house. That's where I'm going for my holiday.
Wow.
Away from this laptop.
You think you're going to your back garden for a little bit? Mix it up a little bit. Yeah. Maybe you'll walk down to the grocery shop.
Well, not too. I don't want to walk too far because I don't want to be breaking those lockdown rules.
Oh no, Boris will come for you.
Yeah. But no, yeah.
And
It's it'll be alright, but another holiday. But actually, probably this is the first one where, like, obviously I'm not doing anything, and I'll probably think about it more because Christmas, obviously, we did see some family, so it was something to look forward to, and obviously in my last holiday in November, I was waiting for the birth of my son, so that was a bit more excited and gearing up for that. Whereas now it'll just be, just doing stuff, I suppose. Maybe do some tasks around the house.
Sounds quite suspicious.
Got nothing to do.
Yeah, I've got to finish grouting the tiles in my kitchen, so I might do that.
Exciting stuff. Are you talking about the wall? Just
in
front of
tiles.
in the burners.
And
Yep.
finally, we have Evan. Back from the fridge.
Back from the fridge. Yeah. Not exactly. It's cold in that fridge. I'm gonna replace Burkhoff talking about Las Vegas weather with. I think it's always gonna be cold. That's kind of a boring forecast, fridge forecast there. I'm all right. I'm actually kind of still annoyed. I know that you don't like Hereditary, Mitch, but I'm kind of still annoyed.
I haven't seen Hereditary.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Okay, great.
Neither
Wait,
have I.
I could have sworn you said that it was bad.
That was Keith.
That-
It was
Oh,
Keith.
That's Keith.
No, who I'm referring to is Keith with this story. I thought you also said it was bad.
I've never
He's not
seen
here
it.
to defend himself. I'm sure he'll be in the comments later or bring it up, Nick. The balls on this man to say that he's suspicious of my taste in horror because I like Hereditary, when in fact the opposite is true. That from the horror, like, I'm not going to say true horror fans, true gamers with a Z, true horror fans with a Z, the consensus on that movie is that it's either good to great. And the fact that he not only doesn't like it, but hates it, and so much so that he's convinced that people who like it have to turn in their horror cards, fucking just blows my mind. Now, I know he's not losing sleep over it, but I've been thinking about it for a solid 3 weeks since the episode that he said, I have a bad taste in horror because I like the film. The balls on that man. He's not here to defend himself, so that's how petty I am. I'm doing okay, by the way. I'm pretty good. It's midday Saturday.
Have you seen Midsummer yet?
Yeah, I have.
I've heard more mixed things on that one because everybody seems to quite like Hereditary. But
yeah,
Midsummer's a bit...
it's hard to follow up. I wouldn't say it's a sophomore slump, but there are aspects of that movie that I don't like, and I don't think it's still good, but Hereditary is such a high note, especially for a first film. But it is a film that I do need to go back to and rewatch to analyze it a bit more. There's a lot I like about it, but I would be lying if I didn't say that I wasn't disappointed. Well, there's a lot of negatives in that sentence. I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed. There you go. It's still okay. It's still pretty good though. I mean, for a second film though, that guy has some talent, and I'm happy to see what he does next.
All right. So, gentlemen, beers. Anybody got any?
I do. So there's I think I might have mentioned them on a prior episode. There's a Japanese kind of beer distribution website called Antenna America, which I think is a bad name because it doesn't really tell you about anything that they do.
Yeah, it sounds like you sell antennas.
Yeah, it's just a bad name. But they import American beer. Bit expensive, but I'm so starved for good beer here. I mean, there's a lot of good beer in Japan, but American craft beer that I do pay a pretty penny to get a shipment every now and then. So I got like a 15 beer shipment about a week ago. And I got this Founders, and this is Founders Centennial IPA. Now, let me see. Shit, I should have looked this up so we could fucking move on from this. 7.2% alcohol by volume, 65 IBUs. So if anyone's not familiar, IBU means International Bitterness Units, and it's just a bitterness scale so you can kind of judge how bitter the beer is going to be. The more you drink, the more you look at a number and you know what it means on the scale. When you hit above, when you go to the 30 to 40 range, that's really bitter. And this says 65, which is essentially off the charts. So Founders is a really good brewery. I believe they're out of somewhere in Michigan. I feel bad for not knowing this. But very briefly, this is off of ratebeer.com. It's rated as a 99 out of 100 scale. The Centennial IPA has quickly become the IPA of choice. For whom, I don't know. Pour yourself a pint of this complex, flavorful ale and bask in the frothy head's floral bouquet. Relish the immense citrus accents achieved by the abundance of dry hopping. This ale's sweet, malty undertones balance the hop character with a finish that never turns too bitter. All right, that is the first and last time I read marketing bullshit from my my smartphone. So yeah, that's it, very amber, slightly transparent, bit of a rocky
froze
head.
right when you were holding it out with your mouth open. Just...
Sorry. It's you can kind of see through it a bit.
Yeah, it's way
nice
more,
rocky head,
hazier.
pretty dark and ambery. For an IPA, this is way more amber color than you might see off of a traditional IPA. There's not a lot of gold in here, but
looks like cloudy as well.
Yeah, it is quite cloudy. Yeah, you can't really see through it. Yeah, this is oh man, I just like stuck my whole nose in there. It smelled so good. Sorry, I gotta wipe my nose off. Sorry. Very tropical on the nose. Got a bit piney, but you can tell there's like gonna be a nice bite of bitter hops in there. They're known for their heavier IPAs, but like this marketing synopsis said, never turns too bitter, and I would say that is definitely the case. Lots of beers that are like really, really bitter, these American craft beers that pride themselves on turning the hoppiness and the bitterness up to 11, and it just sits on your tongue and it builds and builds and builds throughout the entire beer. A lot of people don't like that. I absolutely love that about IPAs. It's my favorite style. This one doesn't necessarily do that, although I haven't had more than a sip just now, but the most surprising thing about this is it's not really building on my tongue as some of the other American craft beers I've had, but it's 7.2%. And at an alcohol content that high, you'd think it would be doing that, just like being really, really heavy. But they've actually developed a really decent balance between the maltiness and the citrus aroma and this kind of slightly bitter bite. But yeah, no, this is good. I paid too much for it, but I'm happy that I bought it all the same.
Sounds good.
Hey, Evan, I think you should put that on Instagram. Don't you? I think you should put more things on Instagram.
So Liam can like it.
What are you talking about? Liam just
what are you talking about?
Unproportional to other people.
Absolutely. I am a spiffing good gentleman who treats all equally, you know.
That's named Devin.
Especially on social media platforms.
So that is Founders Centennial IPA by Founders Brewing.
All right. Does anybody else have a beer at all to share today?
No, I'm going to start drinking more on Fridays, so I've got something to show you on Saturday morning.
Awesome. That sounds...
yeah, Friday is what gets you. I'm so happy last night I only had one beer. I woke up on Saturday at 6 to go to work. I'm like, I am so smart. I only had one beer last night. Yeah, it has nothing to do with me being smart. It had to do with me being tired. But
now that I'm more stable here in Los Angeles and financially and everything all good, that I will start bringing beers. So I'm excited to do that.
Oh, super excited. I don't get to see a lot of what's in stores in England or your part in Los Angeles, Mitch. So yeah, if you could find some interesting stuff, I'd love to see the cans. Take a note, because Antenna America might have it. They always get new beers in.
Okay.
So yeah, when you can.
Sounds good. So we are going to go right into our topic of the day, or more the topic of the week. And this one came from Liam. So I'm going to let him explain this exact topic that he was interested in us discussing.
Well, I was thinking about this topic like since last year, and I was thinking, that this is definitely the direction the industry's headed in. Consolidation. Basically, every company in the games industry being bought up, like right now, because the industry is realizing more than ever that there's all of these services and they need content for those services, and basically they need to take all of these very good companies basically away from one another so that they don't miss out, essentially. I guess that would be the best way of putting it. I mean, last year Microsoft bought Bethesda. That was like the biggest sort of buyout in I think ever really. I don't think there's been a bigger sale within the games industry.
Was Activision buying Blizzard worth more?
I don't think so. No,
I'll look it up.
it certainly wasn't as large of a purchase, and Activision Blizzard was more of a merger than an actual straight up buyout.
Oh, keep going. I'm just gonna look it up as you keep going.
Well, basically, to lend more credence to this theory, just last week we had Embracer Group buy out Gearbox Software. Was it Aspire Media, who were rumored to be working on the Knights of the Old Republic remake? I mean, they pretty much are. It's pretty obvious at this point. But they got bought out by Embracer Group and sucked into part of Saber Interactive.
So I will correct you. Activision did buy Blizzard for way more money. So the purchase of Microsoft to Bethesda, technically acquiring ZeniMax Media specifically, was $7.5 billion. The acquisition of Activision, the transaction amount is around $18.9 billion. Along with a becoming the 52% majority stakeholder in the company. And so that allowed them to do the transition. So it's definitely the biggest acquisition has been Activision Blizzard.
Maybe that happened not so long ago per se, but long enough ago that we just kind of didn't remember the number.
Yeah.
Whereas,
well, it is 2008. It's almost 10,
I even remember the
ago.
7.5 billion 10 years ago. Yeah. So it's
not
fresh
well
in
over
my
a
mind.
decade. So
okay.
And usually that information people don't remember at that time because consolidation hasn't been as big of a thing in the games industry until probably recently more than anything.
Well, I guess that lends credence to the topic at hand, where we're talking about this massive merger 10 years ago. Then all of a sudden, within the last couple months, we're having all of this consolidation.
I mean, if you look at it though, the ZeniMax buyout is a much bigger company being bought out than Blizzard, even though it cost them a lot more money. It's interesting looking at it like that because, I mean, I suppose back in 2008 with World of Warcraft sort of had a peak and StarCraft sort of coming out and all of that stuff, I suppose it sort of would be worth that kind of money. I can't remember, was Hearthstone a thing back then as well?
Hearthstone, I don't think came in.
Yeah, that's been around since.
I don't think that came around until 2010.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh, you could be right.
Like right on the cusp of Hearthstone.
Yeah, for sure.
It's interesting.
I get your premise, but I don't agree totally with your logic with it, because you're saying all these services. I don't think there's that many services, to be truthfully honest.
Well, I don't think it's so much services yet. So I think it's the idea that these companies will want services eventually. Like, services is the future. If you're going to have Game Pass and then you're going to have PlayStation Now and things like that, people are going to get used to the idea that they pay a monthly fee for all of these games. I feel like video game sales are going to go down after a while, and companies are going to have to adjust to having services.
I disagree.
And
I don't think
services isn't the only reason. It's also the fear of missing out. Because if a big company like Microsoft is going to buy up a bunch of companies that do business with loads of other companies, the other companies are going to be like, oh, well, we don't want to miss out on this talent. We've been working with these people for years.
I get where you're going with it. I don't think, and I've always been a proponent to say, I don't think Game Pass is the future of games in regards to. I do not believe that at all whatsoever. Only because it's not profitable. It's extremely it's extremely tricky to be profitable, and with a company like Microsoft being the one to do it, I think it's the wrong company. If any company was going to try to do it, is the wrong one to be able to get as many subscribers as they need. I see if something like Activision did it, because they have Call of Duty every single year. That thing sells over 10 million copies a year. That is automatically, you're going to have 10 million subscribers to your service if you get the new Call of Duty every single year with their service. That I think might be because other companies are not necessarily following. I know EA has done something similar, but it's not the same in regards to you're getting to play the games when they come out day one.
Yeah, it's only like that on PC.
Right. So it's
Origin access.
Yeah.
Like,
So it's not
EA Play now.
Yeah. So it's not the same, and so I just don't see it being the future. I think these companies make way more money if they sell these at $60 a pop, especially something like Call of Duty is going to make them way more money than they would if they charged you a monthly fee for a full year.
Oh, I don't think so. If they charge you, say, £10 a month, well, sorry, $10 a month, let's say, just that's basically them for 12 months getting £10 off of you. You pay $60 for a Call of Duty game every year. Well, $70 now, I suppose. That's $40 more every single year to have a subscription to their service, and then they don't have to include all of the monetization strategies that they have in those services.
I get that, but at the same time, you run into the issue of if someone's going to see that and then they're going to see they can buy the game for $60, they're just going to buy the game for $60 because they're not going to want to pay the $10 a month to do that. So that's why you need a vast library to back it up.
I
so that's where it gets
find
tricky.
that people are a lot more susceptible to paying monthly than paying a larger price at first.
I disagree only because there are too many. There are too many services that are monthly.
I won't disagree with you there, but this kind of marketing works. And also, I think one of the problems, if I could just say, with us talking about this, is that I don't think we're always thinking about the majority. We're thinking about this from.
That's what I'm thinking. Agreed.
Yeah, we're thinking about this from the lens of being gamers, being passionate about that. We personally would agree that we prefer to just buy games, not to use these services unless it's convenient to us at the time. But I think for the general populace and most people, they look at a service like Game Pass. They don't play many games, but they'd like to. They go, oh, £10 a pop every month. I'll sign up for that. That's a great deal. I can play all of these games I've never had any interest in.
All of my casual friends who are gamers, I wouldn't say play games as much as I do, or any of us really, they're all Xbox people because Xbox in the UK seem to have had a hold. I know PlayStation kind of maybe took over a bit last year. A lot of my Xbox friends went to PlayStation 4 towards the end of the generation, but generally they've all gone back to Xbox when the launch, and purely because of the monthly subscription. Like, I don't know anyone really. I mean, I think maybe Liam, did you? I know if you didn't buy one, did you? I don't think I know anyone that bought the Xbox outright. I think every single person bought it on a monthly payment scheme, which came built in with Game Pass. So they've already got all those extra Game Pass members, and which they are paying monthly for. They might have.
The Trojan horse that got Game Pass
on the new system. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And I spoke to all of them. They said it's amazing. Like, all these people are like, I've got like 300 or 200 games or whatever, how many games on it. It's amazing. I can just download it here and just don't even think about the monthly payment, which is quite funny, really. Because they're like, oh, I'm buying the console.
Yeah, I think
not the console
joke,
plus the Game Pass. You know what I mean?
The joke of services and subscriptions is, originally there was very few choices, and you're trying to pull the plug on cable, and then the kind of joke online is it's gotten so bad that actually cable might be a better deal because they give you a solid pack of more stuff for less money. When you start looking at, you put it on the credit card, you're not seeing, if you're not paying attention to your monthly bill, you're like, actually, I'm paying more for all the services I subscribe to, and I'm paying for this service because I want this single show or this single game, and I forgot to cancel it, and I've been paying for it for 3 extra months or whatever, and it's actually amounts to more than what they're playing. Are we getting away from the topic a bit about the consolidation?
No,
I guess.
Okay, I
this
think
is definitely part of it.
A pretty good analysis of it.
I just think it's funny if this is going to be like a streaming service thing, but for games where people are going to be piecemealing everything, and it's actually going to end up costing more money, depending on how many you choose when they're available.
Even though I'm with Mitch, I don't want this model. I mean, I think he doesn't think this model is actually going to like been a long time. I would disagree. I think it is. I don't want it. I prefer to want to be able to go and buy the game I want to buy and not have to wait for it to come on a service I follow, if you know what I mean. But I wouldn't. I am kind of with Liam with the thing. I do think game sales will start to reduce because if I was a parent and my son was like, "Oh, I need this game, I need this game," well, you've got 100 games, Billy, to play. Play one of those. I'm not buying in your new game. Like I'm talking about the casual gamer here, not. But you know, the ones who actually are playing games because their parents are buying them games. A lot of my friends who are parents have said, "Oh no, we've got Game Pass. We don't need to buy my son a game now for 2 years because they can just play whatever comes on there." That's their attitude.
Yeah,
because they're already paying the 15. So
I get where you're.
I'm talking about those kind of gamers.
Oh yeah, for sure. And when I talk to casual gamers, I get the opposite, and that's where my viewpoint comes into play. Is a lot of them are going another subscription service. I don't need it. Or Billy will tell me what games I want, and he will just go get them at the store because I'll say you get 3 games a year, and you can go get those 3 games you really, really want. Instead of, I've had a couple people I know casually subscribe to Game Pass and not like the games that are offered on there because
that's crazy to me.
Because they've played them already. So they're like, I don't have anything I want to play, so I'm wasting my money. So they told their parents to cancel the subscription. And this is where the big thing is. You know, when it comes to games, parents listen to the gamer more than any other medium probably because parents have no idea what the heck is going on. It's like with Fortnite, they hand over the credit card. It's things like that. And so if the gamer isn't intrigued by the service, the gamer will tell the parent no.
I think the gamer sees the value of the service though. I think if you're a gamer and somebody asks you a question, what is of the best value for me? Who's somebody who doesn't play many games.
That's the thing. That's the underlining thing you have to have is I don't play a lot of games. If you don't play a lot of games, Game Pass is amazing. The best service you can get.
That is the large majority of casual game players.
Not necessarily.
I think it is.
Certain gamers have certain games that they only want to play every single year. They don't want to play.
Oh, but that's also true.
They only want to play Call of Duty. They only want to play their Maddens. They only want to play their Sony first party, or they only want to play their Bethesda or whatever comes out from whatever platform.
I think those people are a small minority. Like Game Pass, a service like that is like the answer for somebody wanting to play more games other than the games that they already buy every year, essentially.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's like
it's full of
people,
B to C tier titles instead of A tier titles. I think people see the quality difference. People see quality difference.
To be honest, I think going on game, I find it hard to believe anybody could go on that service and not see the hundreds of games that are on there and find nothing that they want to play.
Are you saying whether or not they're niche gamers or
ton of games.
Casual?
I mean, there are tons of indies. There are tons of big modern games.
As a PC gamer, it's got all my RTSs on it, so I'm happy. I literally can play Crusader King. When that came out on day and date, I was like, woohoo! Because I love that game, so I was over the moon. So there is and I can spend hours on my PC playing that game, what I would say is I think Game Pass is a kind of subscription like Netflix or Disney that you might wait for that game the game you're waiting for to come out. You might subscribe for a month, like people do with Netflix and Disney, play their game for the month and then drop the service. I did that for PlayStation Now. My mates were playing this golf game. And it just happened to be, and I didn't want to buy it. And I could get a PlayStation Now subscription for a month. So I just got the subscription for a month, played the hell out of it, and then dropped the subscription.
Yeah.
And do I feel like I'm gutted that I didn't buy the physical version of that game? No. I think I saved myself 15 quid or whatever it was.
Yeah, but if you look at
I think maybe people will use it more like that.
You made a good point, but that also hurts it. So you need consistent subscribers to maintain a profit to be able to make it worth your while financially. So an example.
Do you think Game Pass is going to keep? I mean, is Microsoft going to keep these?
That's the
players
question.
On a consistent basis.
That's the ultimate question. I think that's what everybody's waiting for. And if Microsoft,
I guess we don't know yet. We don't know. It's too early to tell.
I thought last I checked, though, I thought they did have an absolute shit ton of consistent subscribers.
No, they
Yeah,
just
I
said
think
they,
they
ju-
do.
they
And they
just
got-
they
and
just
they-
said that they had 15 million subscribers, not necessarily if they're active or not.
Well,
I don't know.
you got to think.
So,
that
like,
a
if you
lot
think
of
about
those
if you
UK
think about
purchases
so if you think about
would be
Netflix
on
is
Game Pass for the next 24 months.
so if you think about Netflix, it's over 50 million active subscribers every single year for Netflix. Then obviously there's going to be fluctuations in addition to that number where some people just go for a month and not go for a month. And Netflix is the number one. If you look at something like Disney Plus right now, it has about the same amount of subscribers as it does as Game Pass, and they're not profitable. They are expecting not to be profitable for the next 3 to 5 years. It's the same thing with HBO Max that just launched that only has 7 million subscribers. It's a really tough way to go, and that's where I understand the consolidation works out for the companies, because then they can say we have this exclusive and then they can sell it as just a regular game. It'll be interesting to see if other publishers go in the direction of a Game Pass, but even Sony has flat out said it's a bad model. It's not profitable. We're not doing it.
I mean, to a certain degree, Sony already has that model with PlayStation now.
But if you look at the quality, it's not the same.
That's what makes me laugh.
I mean, they sort of dip their toe into it though, with PlayStation Plus games.
The only reason they're doing it is so you can
necessarily
play your
agree with you.
PS3 games. That's the only reason why they have the service.
I don't think it's the only reason.
But that's the main reason they bought the
I
service.
don't agree with you, Mitch. I think then Sony go on that, and the reason they say that is so they don't get flack for not releasing their first party games day and date on the service. But that service now could be just as good as Game Pass, but Sony are deciding not to make it that good because they don't want to lose
Do you think they're ever going to turn it into something like Game Pass eventually?
No.
Not anytime soon.
They're like Nintendo. They're gonna go their own
No,
route.
they make too much. They make too much money on release.
Yeah. I was just posing the question, but yeah, you release games like Horizon, God of War, Spider-Man. It's like you don't even need.
When you're winning like you are, why change?
Yeah. That makes sense. How do you guys see this going with all of a sudden there's been this explosion of these companies absorbing other companies? Like how do you see this going forward?
I do worry that Tencent is going to come and clean up the board from Gather. I do. No, he's laughed, but I'm like they are still gearing up for certain acquisitions. Me and Liam have been back and forth on this, and I think we both come to the same agreement. We think they're just going to come in and clear house of anything that hasn't been bought by Microsoft.
Like, do we have a dark future ahead of us, or you think we'll be all right in the end?
Well, luckily, one of those dark futures has recently given up. Google. I was concerned that Google would make a big purchase, and it would be horrible. I mean, now we've just got sort of Amazon on one side and a bunch of Chinese companies on the other side.
The biggest mistake that could come out of all of this is if it's like an EA situation. They buy these studios, they don't produce like they're supposed to because either they're not getting adequate support from their company that hired them. That's my nervousness with all this purchasing from Microsoft. They don't have the track record to have good quality. If you're looking at the quality of all other like very high level games, they're on a B team level. And so that's my nervousness is, you bring in Bethesda, they're already B tier quality with a B tier quality head like Microsoft. That makes it a little more difficult.
I disagree.
Bethesda's games always come out buggy. They don't sell very well because they're not appealing. And some of the games are revolutionary.
I disagree. I mean, I think Dishonored 2 is one of the most polished, brilliant games ever. I think
Arcane is amazing. They haven't in recent memory. They've been personally right. Dishonored, Prey, Dishonored 2 and the DLC for at least, I don't know about Prey's DLC. I haven't played it, but I've played all the Dishonored 1 DLC.
Yeah,
and I'm
DLC.
playing Death to the Outsider or Death of the Outsider with right now. That shit's great. Like specifically Arcane Studios is their games are amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's everything but Bethesda Game Studios,
Right,
but even you can't argue how popular those games are. I mean the amount of money Fallout 76 makes, despite being a piece of crap.
Also, you can't say that a game that like a publisher that produced Skyrim that has been on most every fucking console in the last like 12 or whatever 10 years, however long it's been out for, is a B-class studio. It's ridiculous.
Well, sales number isn't the only way to determine if a game is good. You know, they're probably
I like those games.
They have one
Fallout 4's great.
Their pedigree is one of the most
Skyrim.
buggiest game studios in all of games.
I don't think that's.
I haven't run into many bugs with. I didn't like the last what's it called, Doom, but it wasn't because it was buggy. It was because I just got bored by about halfway through. But the first remake of Doom was fantastic. I didn't really find any bugs in it.
I'm not saying it's every game.
There
are multiple games that we can list that are riddled with engine bugs. That's just horror.
I disagree. I mean, the only studio that ever has like any like bugs in it is Bethesda Game Studios, and ironically, the most popular out of all of them. And then I like to come back on Microsoft not having a pedigree as well, because I know they fucked up a bunch in the past, but they make quality games when it counts. I mean, look at the Gears of War games from the Coalition and the Forza games.
Also,
like they just
even you might not like racing games, but Forza Horizon is a fantastic game. If you're into racing games, it looks beautiful. Plays pretty fun, like arcade races. I know that might be everyone's cup of tea, but you can't.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, no, I'm not. I won't disregard their racer. I put that apart from everything else because the rest of their stuff is underwhelming or subpar.
I think the problem is, Mitch, is they haven't really released much.
Well, that doesn't help
that's
either.
More of their issue. That's more of their issue.
Well, because we
don't know what they can produce anymore because they haven't released anything for
and Liam, you can say their Gears was better, but if you put it up against some of the top tier games in the industry, it doesn't hold up. It's basically.
I think it does.
I don't think it does at all. I believe that
the work that the Coalition have done is like the gold standard.
No, I think they finally brought games to like modern age, but they didn't do anything with it to make it like they didn't do anything to evolve the franchise like it needs to evolve and become better. Like they literally just took the game and they're like, okay, Gears of War 4 was like, okay, we can make it on the Xbox 360 level of like, okay, that's how the quality is in regards to like the shooting feels fine. And then the next game is like, okay, now we introduce open world elements like every other game, but there's nothing creative about it.
Yeah, but Mitch, what is the difference between that and Uncharted 4? Now, I know that's controversial, because I would agree that Uncharted 4
I wouldn't say Uncharted 4 is an amazing game.
Oh, well, I don't like Uncharted 4.
Uncharted 4 is not my favorite. Uncharted 3 is my favorite.
But what is pushing forward the industry? I'm just looking at the production values of these games and looking, wow, that's polished as hell. That graphical,
I think,
that's
what I think what the problem is, we have been slightly spoiled by Sony's first-party games. Let's be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Like God of War, Horizon, but I wouldn't say Horizon didn't particularly push it, but it was just a beautifully looking game, and I just liked the premise. But God of War and obviously Last of Us 2, we've had all this amazing content from Sony and Spider-Man, you could say. And then you're looking at Xbox and that comparison. Yeah, this is where you're. But I would say Sony's pushing it like an A-star right now. I haven't played a game from Sony. Actually, Godfall was a bit of a disaster, but I suppose that was Gearbox. That
was Gearbox.
I don't know if you can lay that on Sony's door.
That's like the medium for Xbox right there. In Dan's mind, at least.
Well, yeah. To be fair, I've carried on playing the medium, and it's okay. I think it would have been. I didn't play Godfall, but I think I would have enjoyed it more than playing Godfall, if I'm honest. But there we go. Again, I did pay for it, but in my subconscious, I didn't pay for it. And that's the thing. When we go back to like the paying for services, like if you can convince the consumer that they've got to pay for that anyway, like it doesn't really worry them. I don't know. I think it's just I've got to pay that anyway. Like for instance, like I'm paying for the console, but I would have paid for that anyway. I may have bought that outright, but I couldn't afford it at the time, so I'm paying for that anyway. And the Game Pass subscription, I'm actually only paying £5 more than I was for my PC Game Pass, if you would do the figures. So, and for £5 more, it's a great service. So then it's just like, it's only £5 extra.
Yeah.
So and that's a weird. It's all subconscious, of course. It's all to do with psychological marketing, which I think Liam was saying earlier, if you can convince the consumer that actually that monthly subscription is a good deal, and that's what they're going to work with. And I think you're right, Mitch. At the moment, there probably isn't that persuasion to say it's a good deal. But I'm not saying that. I'd hope that Microsoft does put out their ass and start churning out games with all those studios they've got.
Yeah.
And then people then that psychological switch in their head will go, actually, it's a great service. Why am I paying for it every month?
Yeah, once they sort out the first party, and once you get all the Bethesda games on there, and not to mention a lot of EA games as well. Like that's
well, now they've done a deal with EA, I think I'm got Game Pass because I like FIFA and all those, but I'm not a day and date. I don't need to play it at the beginning of the season, so I'll just play it when it comes on there, like 6 months later, just because to have it.
You guys are going off the assumption that Microsoft first-party studio games are going to be great, and you can't make that assumption without because they don't. Because they don't have a full history of showing that quality. Because a lot of these studios are brand new, or have been consolidated, or have been transformed into new studios, and have been also forced to work on projects that may or not be passionate for. And many directors have left projects from these games. Like we just got an announcement that the person that's working from the initiative that's working on the new Perfect Dark game has left the studio.
That guy is not involved in the actual creation of the game per se. He's not like a top level figure. He was more instrumental in forming the teams, essentially within the company. He's just stepping away for personal reasons.
I'm not saying that's. I'm just saying people are leaving projects, and that doesn't look good.
Not really. Other than 343, I haven't seen many people leaving any.
So that's the only thing.
Can I say one thing? I agree with you, Mitch. Can I say one thing? I think I'm going to give Microsoft the benefit of the doubt, because I think a lot of people, when Guerrilla said they were moving from Killzone to Horizon, people were like, what the hell? And look what they produced. So until these studios release their first game, I've got to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying subscribe tomorrow in the anticipation of those games. No. Let's see what they are. But I think you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt if they're new studios to see what they produce. Because, as I said, I was blown away by what Guerrilla did. I was not expecting that kind of quality or class of game. So I think just because it's not a Sony studio, I think it still deserves to get the benefit of the doubt before it's released again.
My argument was as well, because even if you take quality out of the picture, like the amount of output we've had from Xbox Game Studios, like in the last 10 years, has been mediocre at best. It's been there hasn't been many games. There's been so few games that it's like waiting for the next game to come around, and you like set your watch like 2 years in time. It's just like so we'll get there eventually. Oh, Sea of Thieves has been delayed again. Oh, okay. And another game's cancelled. And it's just like, but now they're in the position where even if the games don't turn out very good, their output is going to be like at the rate it was before. It's like quadruple in their output.
But that's worth something. You're leading to my entire point I'll roll it back after this to my point we were talking about a while ago. But my issue always with Microsoft has been they are a company that is always about quantity over quality, and that's always been my issue with them. And that with all this consolidating makes me nervous about the quantity versus the quality issue again, which I understand that some people feel that the value is there for a service like Game Pass, because that is their thing. They are Game Pass. Is quantity is there, but there is not quality, and that's the issue. But anyways, the reason we even got on this tangent was I think the issue with all this consolidation is companies potentially could hurt these studios that they acquire, and these studios could shut down. And so, or ruin games for them, like something like BioWare has gone downhill a little bit since they have been acquired. They've been an up and down studio. They had some highs and then they dropped some lows. Same thing with, like Destiny. It's not that saying Destiny is a bad game. It just hasn't been what Activision expected it to be, and then they had to part ways. So I think there's issues that come with that. And I think that's why I don't see the purchasing happening more and more, that there's going to be a fire sale on game studios. I don't see that happening because I think people will start finding out that also this is a lot of overhead that you have to pay for. And if they are not putting out the good quality, it's not going to be worth their time or their money. But Evan, you haven't spoken at all. So what's
Sorry,
where are you
I
at?
had my wife thought it was a great idea to start washing shellfish in the sink next to me. And then over that, like putting aluminum foil over the bowl. That I was like, I can't talk. I have to mute this whole conversation because you're washing shellfish. Anyways, I actually wanted to bring a point that Liam, you had brought up unbelievable before the show, where with these big companies absorbing these studios, EA in the past is notorious for absorbing studios and like having them micromanage games to shove microtransactions in them and then destroying studios. And it's like it's common knowledge now. Like it's a joke once EA absorbs a studio. Like, okay, well, let's see how long they last, type of thing.
Yeah.
And then this most recent consolidation from what were they called again?
Codemasters?
Oh, the more recent one.
Oh, Embracer Group. I see.
Embracer Group, where we were talking just before the show. It seems to me like, how do you view do you think like going into the future, EA is going to be the exception to the rule, where these companies that are absorbing studios are going to leave them do their thing and be a bit more hands-off, because that seems like a healthier way to let these companies be while also giving them cash flow?
I think as much as I would like to shit on EA, like every day, all the time, never stop.
Right.
I don't think they're the same company they were back when all of the previous disasters happened. I think it's not so much a change in them, more than a change in the industry. I think.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Like this is. Yeah, like the old EA, the memes and all that stuff has carried on now to where maybe that's not what's happening now.
Yeah.
However, it's all that kind of us poking fun at EA and EA being the worst company in the world has just kind of flowed from 2010 till 2021.
Without being ridiculous,
we still have that in our minds.
This whole time, EA's been sitting there in their boardroom laughing at us, going, "They hate us, but we make millions of dollars every year, and we're just putting it into the bank."
Yeah, what do they care? What do they care what I think? They don't give a shit.
And on that note, EA have just signed a new exclusive deal with UEFA to lock up the Champions League and all the licensing until 2025.
Yeah.
So,
right.
If Pro Evo wasn't already dead, it is now.
Like, yeah, on one hand, like you have all these like very few people being critical of EA. They're like, well, we don't care because we're making so much money. So poke fun at us all you want. Label us the worst company in the world. We don't care. But
I think sometimes that's the problem. And I think actually Mitch is kind of talking about Microsoft. I think that's why they don't. I think they care, but I think they also, it's such a small fraction of their business that they're like, oh, it doesn't make some money, but these guys are having some fun. Like, same with EA. It's like, oh, FIFA's making all our money, so we'll try and make some Star Wars games. If we have to cancel them, we have to cancel them. Like, it's like, I feel like, I know that seems ridiculous, but I think somewhere someone's thinking that, oh, we spent a couple $100 million on that game, didn't work out, never mind, move on to the next project till one sticks, because they know they've got this constant flow of cash every year from FIFA, not only on game sales, but then everyone's bloody Ultimate Teams cashing in again on the new cards that they look exactly the same as the previous year, yet they've given them another different rating.
Yeah,
this is the
you bring up a great point, because if you look at the correlation, so you look at something like EA, your example, also you look at Microsoft, they have that absent cash flow that they don't have to worry about losing. Something like Sony, the games industry is their biggest profit margin. So if they F up a game, that's a lot of money down the drain for them. That can ruin their business, because now PlayStation has taken over the market for them as in regards to majority of what they handle. Like Sony Pictures.
What was it like? Google Stadia was like a $3 billion investment, but they make $100 million a day on advertising. So like, if they sink Stadia, like they just don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing.
So that's
more like passion projects. They're like, someone in their team's like, I really want to do this. Okay, have a go.
Go ahead.
Oh, never mind,
Yeah.
didn't work. Can that then?
Yeah, and so that also can determine whether how consolidation happens, why they consolidate certain products or certain businesses or certain studios. So I think, yeah, for sure. I think the outlining parameters of the business itself is a huge component. Like if Nintendo buys a studio, like they can't afford. Well, I mean they're Nintendo. They sell a bunch of other games, but like they in their minds, like they're not going to shut
They're
down.
much
a game.
more careful when it comes to those.
Correct. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it really
I
just
mean,
depends.
Nintendo also just bought Next Level Games, which is like the first
Yeah,
thing
they did,
bought
yeah.
in years, which is
Yeah.
Quite
uncharacteristic
timely,
for Nintendo.
Liam. This topic.
It's just
I-
one other aspect I wanted to mention though, because I know this has sort of deviated off of the initial topic of consolidation, but I do think it is a genuine concern to a lot of independent developers that if they screw up once, that's it. Like their company's done. They can't make another game. Meanwhile, if they're under the umbrella of a bigger company, that gives them so much more work safety. It affords them. It does depend, but it also affords them. It allows them to make mistakes.
Well, for me, that example of that for me would be Kenna Bridge of Spirit, because when that originally was pitched or whatever, that was an independent studio, and then Sony took interest in it and kind of put them under the umbrella. I don't necessarily think if they had been independent, they could have pushed back release the way they could put back release. But I think Sony may have gone to them, push it back 6 months. Don't worry about it. We'd rather this be a good game than go out buggy or whatever in November. Whereas an indie studio with 15 staff members have to pay, they might have had to release it then, and potentially that might have had a massive detrimental effect on sales and everything else.
But
their mental health.
But also that's why you see independent game studios being more strategic about how they do their businesses. So there's an example of I apologize. I wish I knew this game studio off the top of my head, but there's one game studio that ended up saying that they worked on a bunch of ports, some remasters. They also worked with other studios to like make assets for another game studio so they could save up money, so that they could work on their passion project and then be able to afford it themselves, and not if the thing got canceled, they wouldn't go under because they still have that other end of the business. So I mean, this is kind of the world of corporate in general, of the way that the corporate world is nowadays, and it's capitalism at its best. It's basically you buy out your competition because you want to make sure that you have all the assets, and you want to make sure you have all the services, but then it limits the market, and competition then becomes really difficult sometimes, because if you're just going to buy up your competition, then where is the competition? So it becomes very difficult. And so I think there's multiple reasons why consolidation is not always the best, and that's why some studios refuse consolidation. Yeah, I think I don't recall the studio off the top of my head, but I do remember reading a story where someone said that, we got offered. We said no. We wanted to be independent. And I think that's something to say about maybe the business of the company that they were going to work with, that maybe they didn't trust them enough to be able to work with them. And I think that's a huge aspect of whatever is going to happen in regards to if someone's going to consolidate or not, because parties have to agree.
I mean, there's always going to be independent developers. There's always going to be people that aren't part of the consolidation. But I mean, I think it's a simple fact is that we're heading to consolidation. I think.
Is that? Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. It's just that I think for every game developer there is that would rather rock it alone. I mean, they can make as many ports and remasters to make sure their company's adequately funded so they can work on their bigger projects, in peace. But at the end of the day, that does require more employees, and it does require the company to get bigger. And the bigger a company gets, the harder it can potentially fall. Yeah.
What was your question, Evan? Sorry. I thought you were done, Liam.
No, sorry. There's a bit of a lag. I was just wondering if you think going forward, because Liam, I understand what you're saying about some of these smaller studios seeing safety in being under the umbrella, whereas for some studios it could be an inevitable death sentence. So ultimately, like, I mean, this is a really hard question to answer, but and this is very specific to, this is a case by case basis. So I don't know if this is a very good question, but like, is this whole, if what you're saying is true, Liam, or the way you see it, is this move towards consolidation a good thing overall, a bad thing? I mean, what do you guys think? Because I just we had talked about this just before the show, where there's this infograph of how many banks were in the states, and I don't remember how long ago it was, but it's just the NFC playoffs to the Super Bowl, where it's like, well, I mean, spread out over 50 teams versus like 8, but it's like 50 banks, and then it's like, okay, 25, and now it's 3 banks, and they've essentially just 3 banks have absorbed those 50 banks, and now there's only 3 players in the game, type of thing. And
or look
is
at
that
the
good? Is that bad?
or look at the movie studios. It's like basically Time Warner, AT&T, and one other, and it's all like multimedia companies.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like everyone's under 3 umbrellas now, instead of it being a bit wider, or people on the fringe or outside of that in the small indie studios that are not going to accept a buyout.
I think consolidation is going to happen with the big studios or studios that make a name for themselves. I think big companies will come along and try and purchase them if they can, that is. I think what we've got to realize is, though, that technologically it's a lot easier to make a game now than it was 10 years ago. Not saying it'll be like an amazing, like, blow your eyeballs out your sockets, graphically amazing game, but like a simple, like, isometric game or something like that is a lot easier to make now by a lot younger generation than it was when I was probably these kids' ages, like 10, 15 years ago. I think that will keep on feeding. So it means that people will more likely to get into the gaming industry, even if these more indie developers will keep on coming, and then the ones that are standing out might get absorbed, and then I think it will just be a recurring cycle.
Well, and then
we will still have both sides of the industry. I just think the best of the bunch might end up getting absorbed into a conglomerate of some sort.
Well, and you got to look at it too for the independent studios. The mobile market's huge for them. Most of the time, they're making a mobile game to help bring in assets to the company, and and when they bring in employees, they're not always salaried employees. A lot of the time, they're contract, especially because it's temporary. And so sometimes they'll say, "We're going to bring you on for the contract for this specific project," whether that's like a port, a remaster, or a mobile game, and then they will let them go, and then maybe bring them back if they're going to do a bigger game after that.
Before my brother-in-law worked for Sky, he worked for King, and when he first started working there, he was one of 20 employees making Candy Crush. He said by the time he left, there was 50 of them, and he said because there's that little and they're making so much money, their corporate retreats was a private jet to Ibiza for like the weekend.
Dang.
And he said that was because he said we were making so much money on mobile games, and the company size was actually so small. He was just a low-level developer at that point. And it's still only 50 of you, but you know what I mean. There would have been a corporate structure still, even in a small company like that. Yeah. So he moved on to get a promotion somewhere else. But so you know what I mean. Like you are right there. I mean, Mitch, with your mobile games, there is so many like these little indie studios making these mobile games, hoping that one of them was going to hit big, and there we go, and the whole cycle starts again.
Yeah. So I think in the end, consolidation, I think, will hurt the industry, regardless of who scoops them up, because I think it takes away, regardless of what company takes them over, and regardless of what they tell you, they will always limit them in some capacity. Because if you look at it, there's always a micromanager in the process. If you look at something like Microsoft, they have a head of Microsoft Studios, and same thing with PlayStation. They have what's his name from Gorilla?
Herman Hulse.
Yeah, Herman, that's his name. So they have Herman, and literally they go and test these games out, and they give them feedback going, and so that is going to influence how the game is going to play. And that could change the dynamics of everything. And if they didn't have that person saying it, because if that person doesn't approve it, that game's not game made. Plain and simple.
You know what it is though, Mitch? I think it's funny we're talking about this because gaming was such like an outside medium when we were children. Like, it was like, oh, people play video games, haha, then move on. But now gaming's become like a massive corporate conglomerate which is making a massive industry, and it's just become like every other industry. Like, I could use the exact same example for the school I work in. It's great to work in, but because it's part of a multi-academy trust, everything files down. I'm not saying things are bad or good, but because you've got more people to answer to, you're always going to have more either things in the way if you want to do something, because you've got to jump through more hoops. But that's just corporate way, and obviously something by itself.
The wider the reach, the umbrella, it goes down.
Yeah, so something independently by itself is going to be able to make have a lot more decision making on their own grounds and make the thing they want to make than something that's been absorbed into a massive either Sony, Microsoft, things like that. And basically, you've got to rely on the fact that these big corporations let these individual studios have a little wiggle room or leeway, and less of that micromanaging. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I think that's in every corporate structure. That happens when something gets absorbed. You have more hoops to go, and I think gaming's just now entering that market, or if it already really is in that market, but more so because every single person is playing games, and the average gaming age is going up every year, pretty much.
If you look at the Matrix movie, choice. The answer is choice.
Well, exactly. I mean, that is a good example of people having too much creative freedom. At least the 2 sequels, that is. But
hey, for the record, I'm so happy I get to watch the new Matrix movie on HBO Max when it comes out in theaters.
It's pretty good.
Thank you, HBO Max. There we go. That's a streaming service worth
choice.
investing.
There you go. There's option. So they're giving you option.
Yep.
And we could go full circle and say the same thing about gaming, like subscription services. They're giving you more options. I can go and buy the game if I want for the $70, or I can sign up for the subscription service and monthly and play that game along with other games.
Yeah, I think as long as they offer,
there is a lot more choices.
Yeah, it'll become an issue if they only say subscription, and I think unfortunately that's what
I don't think that will happen.
If it's Microsoft, I think they will. I mean, if they're going to charge you almost over 100% the cost of Xbox Gold to make you go back to Game Pass,
but they didn't do that.
I know they took it back. I know they took it back, but they would be willing to go there.
No. Look, the reason Microsoft did that was because they wanted people to unsubscribe from Xbox Gold Live
without having to cancel the service.
Well, no, the thing is that they still have a large contingent of people that simply are just subscribed to Xbox Live Gold, which is about half of. I think it's like 60% of what it costs for Xbox Live Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. They want to make those people shift from Xbox Live Gold over into Game Pass, I think is my theory.
Yeah, they are.
That's exactly my point.
They want to do away with the service.
That's exactly my point, though. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
I haven't finished yet. But then after they've done that, once they've tried their best at converting a bunch of people from that subscription over to their main subscription, they're just going to make online play free. That's my personal opinion on why they did that, even though it turned out to be a very bad decision optically. Yeah,
it was a terrible decision. But they didn't want to be this company that goes, oh, you guys, because it's cutting off their nose to smite their face, to go, oh, we're getting rid of Gold as a service, and you'll only be able to be if you're part of Game Pass, and you're basically cutting off that 60% that are paying you every month. But instead of that, scare them away or scare them onto the other service by upping the price. Exactly. But they didn't actually realise that would actually look worse than if they said you've got 6 months to transition over.
Exactly. They're thinking, if we just make online play free, those people aren't going to subscribe to Game Pass. But if we make them subscribe and then they see how good the service is, they'll go, they've made online play free.
I think they'll make you pay for online always.
What their main mistake is of all this, their main mistake with that service, Gold and Game Pass, is they should have lined them up. They should have lined up Gold and Game Pass at the same price, and then phased out Gold, and they made everyone together onto Game Pass, and then slowly upped your Game Pass and monthly subscription, and then launch Ultimate. Therefore, then you've no longer got the Gold people. But because they did 2 different services, and now they're trying to make them each parity, they're struggling. That's basically.
It's basically the way they should have done it for like the Sony method, which is like you had it free, but you had this service that you've been using. Now all of a sudden you have to keep using this service that you use, and it comes with internet.
Well, yeah, PlayStation Plus was shit this month. If you had a PlayStation 4, you got one game. As a PlayStation 4 owner, you got one game this month with PlayStation Plus.
I know.
You get Control Ultimate Edition.
What was the other game you got?
Control.
You got Control.
You got Concrete Genie and Control.
Was Control not PlayStation 5 only?
It's
it's both.
It's both.
Destructoid All-Stars. Destruction All-Stars is the PlayStation 5 game only.
It's just because of my console, they fixed the bug, so it says PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 for the control. So I was like, that's really harsh. They really screwed over PlayStation 4 customers.
No.
Okay,
for someone who's looking on a PlayStation 4 screen, what happens is on the PlayStation 4, the PS Store on PlayStation 4, it shows you Concrete Genie and the PlayStation 4 version of Control Ultimate Edition, and then what I can do on the app is download add the
PlayStation 5
PS5 Control Ultimate Edition and the extra game, which was Destruction All-Stars. From here, you cannot do it through the PlayStation 4.
Evan.
It does not show up.
Yeah.
So, fuck that game. I think it's absolutely hideous.
Yeah, you're gonna hate that game more than you hate any other game.
Absolutely hideous. Mitch, I actually apologize. I forgot to say I had a hard out at 6:30. I have to go, so once I leave, it's gonna screw up your whole thing. But I do have to leave.
Can you just leave it? Why don't you just turn your camera off and leave your stream on?
Actually, you know what? I might be able to do that.
Sound
okay.
Off, that will stop
all right. Okay. You know what? Okay, actually, fair enough. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So I'm so sorry, I forgot to say it.
Okay.
You guys have a lovely conversation. Again, I'll listen to the end of it. Mitch, you don't have to change a thing. I'm going to mute my mic and cover my camera.
Oh, okay, sounds good.
So you don't have to do a thing. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys. I'll watch it tomorrow. See ya.
See ya.
It's...
Could have just clicked the camera off button on
I know.
Zoom, I didn't want to. And he was so excited to block his camera out. I was like, okay.
Hey, I could still hear you guys. I got my headphones in. Wait, what am I doing?
We said you could just turn off your camera.
Oh, I can just turn my camera off. Jesus Christ, am I stupid? Yeah. I'm so sorry. I don't play enough multiplayer games. I need to brush up on my online connection abilities. All right. Yeah. Cheers, boys. Yeah. Me and my all right. So, all right. Have a good night. See ya.
Yeah, we should be wrapping this up a little bit anyway. So, Liam moved, but that's okay. He's still in a box, and that works. Where were we?
I think we were just shitting all that. Well, I think we came to the consolidation that you think consolidation is going to be bad for the industry. I think it's just the natural evolution of the games industry now. It's a massive multi-entertainment.
Oh, I think it's going to happen, but I just don't like it's happening.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm very in the middle of it because I sort of wish it wasn't happening, but at the same time, I'm like, it could open so many new doors for a lot of interesting collaborations and such. It could speed along a lot of developments, more ambitious projects, but obviously that always has a detriment in some ways, and it's a little bit scary. But I do think it's sort of like one of those things where it's like you don't want change because you're used to the way things are and it's comfy. But while a load of bad things could happen from this change, I definitely think that could happen, and there will be bad things that happen. There's no doubt about that. I think there could be a lot of very good things as well, and it could be a new normal that's just vastly better. Could be a golden age of games for all we know.
Who knows? Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think what I've said, that the independent companies that rise up will get and look good, are going to get consolidated, and then new indie companies are going to come along, and it's going to be this weird cycle. And yes, Mitch, to your point, there will be some that get bought in and then get broken up and end up in other studios, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that individual talent could go to other teams and make their games better. But I know what you mean. It's not. I think for individual game making and these games that were going to be made by this company themselves, it could be detrimental to them as organizations.
I do also think, I think all of these examples of game studios being bought by other game studios that aren't EA or Activision, those are the two main ones. But I think when a lot of those games companies see the successes that other games companies like Sony or Microsoft or Ubisoft could potentially have with new companies from giving them a little more free reign. Embracer Group is a great example. I think that has the genuine chance.
To Hoshino again on the radio here.
I think you can mute him.
And then
Mitch,
mute your mic.
as the host. You can mute him.
Oh,
He turned off his camera, but he didn't mute his mic.
Well, anything in the kitchen, you can hear everything.
Okay, I muted him. We're good.
There you go. Right. That's great. I can't wait for him to listen back to that.
I do genuinely think that it has the chance to affect the sort of culture a lot of these bigger publishers in a good way when they see the results that can be gained from letting these game studios have a little more free reign. I think micromanaging is good sometimes, but I think the problems usually arise from when you get middle management people, business people, who sort of insert themselves into game studios and their creative vision and think they know better. I think that's where a lot of the problems come from. You know, you get these arrogant people that think that because they know business, they know what people want and they know what's good for a games company. And it's just not true. You know, nobody's going to know what's best for a games company other than the games company itself. And you just need good middle management that can recognize the things that they know and the things that they don't know, and then, you know, work effectively. And it's one of the benefits of companies like Sony and Microsoft basically doing this thing where they take on people who are games developers, people that understand how games development works because they've been there, they've done that. You know, people like Herman Hulst, you know, he understands how games development works, and therefore he's not going to scrutinize a creative vision of somebody because he understands that it's a process. So I think there's things like that could end up with this being a very good thing. Sort of games, the games industry is becoming such a prominent and large industry that it's like you don't need to look towards other industries and sort of get talent from there to improve things in the games industry. When you've got all of the talent right there, you know, you don't need that crossover anymore.
If any of you watched 3-Night Weekend on Sifted, they actually, towards the end of the episode, this is what Marcus and Shane were talking about. And Marcus actually put the point and said that we've got so much great talent now inside the industry. We don't need to be bringing these executives from other industries. They're stealing them from ours. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's great. The way the games industry changed over the past few years, it's like the developers have sort of taken back the industry from a lot of these business people and a lot of the people that come from Hollywood or other tech industries, and you know, they have an understanding of how things work, and I think it's far more beneficial.
And I think, like with any industry, if you bring someone in from the outside, there can be some positives, but there's also, they don't understand the business model, and they don't understand that game development takes as long as it does to make it to be good. They're going to rush projects through, and you're going to have an inadequate product coming out the other end. So it is better if there's internal promotion or internal stealing, or from different companies within the industry, and these people have actually been in the games industry for a vast amount of time because they understand it. Whereas you bring someone in from outside, in any industry, not just gaming, things can go wrong. They might not always. Sometimes they go right, but they can go wrong if they don't understand the process.
Yeah, not all of them can be Pizza Hut gods like Reggie Fils-Aimé.
I guess my final thought where I'll leave it at is, like I totally agree with all your points of that we're now mixing the industry a little bit more with all the different. Oh, is he back?
Did you guys heard that?
Yeah, we muted your mic.
Well, when then we muted your mic.
Mitch can mute it.
All right.
We heard,
Thank
you can hear
thank
what's
you.
happening in the kitchen. That's what we heard.
Kind of
You can hear what's happening in the kitchen, and then we muted you.
Okay.
We didn't hear anything after that.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But you can mute your own mic, Kevin, when you leave. You can mute your mic as
that's
well as your camera.
that's a solid lesson that I've learned today.
Well, I mean,
right.
we're about to end it, so if you want to stay for like a minute longer.
Sure. Yeah. Might as well, right? I mean, yeah. All right.
He went for a slight intermission and he's back now.
Yeah.
The kind of hijinks you expect from Pixel Pints.
But no,
I suppose
sorry.
so.
My last point I was going to make really quick is just saying that, like, yes, mixing more people from the industry has been a really good thing. It just depends on the company. Sometimes there still is a higher up that is not from the games industry that doesn't get the games industry, and it's a big hurdle. Still, yeah, absolutely. Evan, any final thoughts, really quick?
No, I'm okay. That's sorry. My switch has been turned off. My mind is. I'm not talking about video games anymore. It's the switch is off. I enjoy your company and seeing your beautiful faces. That's it. That's my final thought.
Well, thanks to Liam, Dan, and Evan for joining us for Pixel Pints this week. We will see you guys next time, whenever that is. Sometime in the future.
Sometime in the future. Cheers.
He messed up the end of the stream, didn't he, by leaving?
Nah, it's okay. We're on a menu screen.